Op is treated poorly by her in-laws for her entire relationship, and her husband never defends her. As revenge, gives the in-laws crappy presents for Christmas and a divorce for her husband. Prenup they forced Op to sign works in her favor. Posted by u/potential_low_8645. Throwaway account for anonymity. I, 31F, married my soon-to-be ex-husband, 33M, in 2018. My in-laws never liked me and made it clear. My soon-to-be ex insisted that they were just putting up a tough exterior and would grow to love me. To show how evil they are, one time, I joined them for dinner and brought a cake I had made, because I was always raised to be a gracious guest. When I stepped into the kitchen and offered the cake to his mother as a thank you for inviting me, she took the plate over to the garbage bin, dumped it in, and handed me the plate back. When I told my husband what she did, he confronted her, and all of a sudden, the crocodile tears started. She claimed she grabbed the plate but didn't get a good grip. I let go too quickly, and it fell to the floor, so, of course, it had to be thrown away. My sister-in-law confirmed that was what happened. My soon-to-be ex owned his own business, and his family called me a gold digger behind his back. Of course, they insisted on a prenuptial agreement, which I didn't care about because I never thought my marriage would end, and I hoped it would appease them and maybe finally get them to treat me kindly. Nope. His business failed once COVID hit. We went through his savings and my own trying to keep it afloat. I refused to go into debt to keep it going, so he closed it down. In 2022, he was suffering from really bad depression because he had lost his business and couldn't find new work. He suggested we move to his hometown, closer to his family, so he had a larger support network. Against my best judgment, we did. He wanted to work only part-time while trying to restart his business, so I became the main breadwinner. And as with most wives, I became the person in charge of buying gifts. Stupid old me thought buying them thoughtful, expensive gifts would finally make them see that I wanted to be accepted. Gifts to us were labeled as couples gifts but were clearly for my soon-to-be ex only. Every holiday was spent with them. There were monthly dinners with the whole family. After a year, I realized that if I ever tried to talk or join a conversation, everyone would go quiet, so I just stopped talking when I visited. In early December, they finalized plans for Christmas. A few days later, my soon-to-be ex said his family had decided they didn't want me to join them for Christmas Eve dinner and Christmas lunch because I ruined the family vibe. I replied, "Fine, we'll do our own thing instead." My soon-to-be ex sheepishly looked away and said he was still going to go. I was livid and so disappointed in him. That was the moment I knew my marriage was over. So, I returned the presents I had bought for his family. In their place, I got one pair of novelty business socks for my father-in-law, a supermarket brand bottle of shampoo for my mother-in-law, the nastiest perfume I could find at the dollar store for my sister-in-law, and the most expensive gift, a large rawhide bone for my brother-in-law and his wife's chihuahua, too big for it to get its jaw around, rendering it useless. I saved about $600 to put toward a deposit for a new apartment. My soon-to-be ex came home from Christmas lunch, telling me I had humiliated and embarrassed him in front of his family. I asked him why he would think I would buy nice gifts for people who clearly don't like me and don't want me around. I served him divorce papers last week. Remember how he was supposed to be a millionaire by now, so we had that prenuptial agreement? My soon-to-be ex is not eligible for any of my savings, since we were required to keep separate accounts or alimony. He doesn't have money for rent or auto insurance. Not my problem anymore. Some of my friends and family are on my side and proud that I went out in a blaze of glory. Others are telling me I was being way too petty, which isn't really like me. So, am I the jerk here? Relevant comments. Commenter. I would say, be glad you did not have children with him. Be glad you can escape and be free with no strings attached. P.S. This relationship should be a learning lesson about the love you want for yourself and the life you desire, not a loss. Op's response. The first thing I did after I moved into my new apartment was adopt an older cat from the shelter. He was allergic, and I could never adopt one since we first started living together. We're just two old hags living our best lives after being rejected. Commenter 2. He chose his family over you and still expected you to buy all the presents? This was perfectly planned and well-deserved for every one of them, including him. Op's response. He only worked 12 hours a week at Walmart so he could do non-existent work restarting his business. I make just over 6 figures, and I can't believe I didn't realize years ago that I was the family ATM. Commenter 3. So thoughtful of them to insist on a prenup. I hope you send them a sincere thank you note after the divorce is finalized, lol. Op's response. My lawyer even laughed that the prenup set up for him is the one we're going to use for me. It required both spouses to maintain separate bank accounts, and each spouse could keep 100% of their savings. No spouse was eligible for alimony. Update 10 days later. Many thanks to everyone for their support on my last post. I thought I'd send a small update. First, for those who asked how the deposit on my new apartment was only the $600 I saved on gifts, it certainly wasn't. I had to dip into savings, but that $600 helped. My soon-to-be ex didn't bother reaching out to me after I left until he was served the divorce papers and my lawyer made it clear we're exercising the prenup. Then, for a few days, it was loving voicemails and texts I never picked up from him and his family, trying to convince me to come back, which eventually turned into threatening and cruel voicemails and texts when it became clear I wasn't budging. My lawyer suggested I don't block them so we have evidence of harassment if needed. Basically, give them the rope to hang themselves with. But then, last night, I got call after call from my soon-to-be ex. Stupidly, I picked up, thinking there was some kind of emergency or something. I had barely gotten out a hello when he said, "The rent is a week late." I told him that was strange because I had paid my landlord 6 days ago. He paused, sighed dramatically, and replied, "No, the rent for here." I reminded him that I don't live there and he shouldn't expect rent. Cue his parents both texting me, claiming they're going to sue me to pay the remainder of the lease in full. I'm not worried about having an eviction on my record since the apartment is in his parents' names. When we first announced we were moving to his hometown, they rented an apartment for us right away so we could move in immediately. They've been renewing the lease each year. We had to pay his parents, and then they would write a check to the landlord, who has no idea who my soon-to-be ex and I are, let alone that we live there. Red flag, I know. I'm glad I had a few weeks to prepare for my departure since they'd probably have used the fact that it's their apartment to kick me out immediately. Divorce is probably going to be a bumpy ride with this manchild and his psycho parents. Any advice from anyone who's been through it is welcome. Relevant comments. Commenter. Do you even have a contract at the place where your soon-to-be ex is living? I don't think they have a basis for suing you, lol. What does your lawyer say? Ops response. The lawyer is confident they have no leg to stand on. I haven't signed any type of lease, and the utilities are in their name too because they were afraid of having too many names connected to the apartment and the landlord finding out. So, they are on the hook for everything that doesn't get paid. But hey, that was their choice and their scheming. FAFO. Second update 13 days later. Hi, if this isn't the right place to post any updates, please direct me to a subreddit that better fits. Super sorry if I'm annoying members who aren't interested, but a few requested an update. For those who commented that my soon-to-be former in-laws were probably charging my soon-to-be ex and me more than the amount on the lease, you were right. And we wouldn't have found out if they weren't so entitled and determined to hurt me. They got a cousin, who happens to be a lawyer, to send me a letter demanding that I pay the entirety of the remainder of the lease or they would file suit and force me to pay it. Clearly a scare tactic. So my lawyer sent a formal request to their lawyer for a copy of the lease, which I've never seen, and a copy of their written agreement with us as sublessees, which doesn't exist. They sent the lease and insisted the sublease agreement was a verbal contract. Not only is subleasing explicitly prohibited, but my mother-in-law and father-in-law had been charging us an extra $200 each month. So we notified the landlord that I had been living there with my soon-to-be ex-husband while the lessees were living in their own house throughout the duration of the lease. We also sent copies of my driver's license, with the address, and over 2 years of bank and credit card statements listing the address. They were served with a 30-day eviction notice yesterday, which I know about because my mother-in-law left a voicemail accusing me of kicking my soon-to-be ex out of his home and mentioning that she now drives with a baseball bat in her car and will be keeping an eye out for me, lol. Obviously, my lawyer's expertise is in family law and this was outside her purview, so she referred me to a colleague who specializes in real estate law. We met today to devise a battle plan, and I am now suing my mother-in-law and father-in-law for all the money I can prove I transferred for rent throughout my residency there, since the apartment was technically not a legal rental. They had no clean hands to sublease to us and then sue me. My lawyer isn't sure how a judge will view it, and the amount exceeds my state civil compensation limit, but he's confident that it will scare them and leave them open to settling for just returning the additional $200 from each payment. I think that's fair because I did live there with my soon-to-be ex-husband, and I don't think it's right to get all the rent money back. I'm an adult, and adults pay rent. I also don't want them to have the satisfaction of saying I'm using the divorce as a windfall. On the soon-to-be ex front, there's no news. We will likely need to go to family court for a separation order since he won't agree to the financial details of the separation agreement my lawyer has drafted. My state requires a 1-year separation period before a divorce can be finalized, so this is going to be a long process. A few people ask why he did what he did and if he's offered any kind of explanation or justification. We haven't really talked since he was served. I don't know if he just fell out of love but found me financially convenient, if the mask finally lifted, or if being so close to his family gave them opportunities to manipulate him. I don't know, and I don't care. I don't need closure, I need them all gone. Looking back, making promises during couples counseling and slowly regressing is enough closure. Knowing he allowed his family to treat me like crap for so long is closure. That final betrayal at Christmas is closure. My focus isn't on figuring it out, it's on making sure I'm happy. Relevant comments. Commenter. Isn't there a prenup? So he can spend money on a lawyer arguing, but there's already an agreement, isn't there? Ops response. Yes, it was set up in his favor because he owned a business that was supposed to be a huge success. Then COVID hit, and it went poof. Now I'm the one with the money, and the prenup is actually protecting me. Commenter 2. Don't forget to investigate soon for the return of money invested in his business. It was a premarital asset and exempt from the prenup. Worth a shot to see if you can recover some or all of that wasted savings. Ops response. I had never thought of this. I'll bring it up when I meet with my lawyer next time. Commenter 3. Keep their calls and text messages as evidence for a protective order. Ops response. Absolutely, she's going to regret it because she works for the school district, and a restraining order won't allow her to teach. Commenter 4. I don't know, and I don't care. I don't need closure, I need them all gone. And that's how you know you're starting to heal. Too many people let toxic exes back into their lives in the name of closure. The truth is that when someone hurts you like that, it's not your job to figure out why. What matters is that they did, and you need to leave to protect yourself. You're absolutely amazing. Ops response. Thank you, honestly, I feel like a new person, like someone who's been ill and is finally able to go outside and breathe fresh air.